All right. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to sell out your hard copies of your book. I'm not talking about Amazon, Kindle, or anything like that. I'm talking about physical, actual hard copy books that you hold in your hand and how to sell them. So I'm Elizabeth Johnston. I'm a self-actualization coach, and I help people find out who they really were meant to be. And it's through the modalities of creativity and story that I help them get back to who they were really meant to be. And so I'm going to give you a little context here for the topic. And before I jump into that, I want to ask you, who here has copies of their book gathering dust in the garage or your basement? And who among you are afraid of ordering too many copies of your book because you're not sure if you can sell them all? And who is thinking twice about even publishing your book in hard copy form because you don't know how you'll find good homes for all of those copies? So if you answered me to any of those questions, then you're in the right place today. So what I'm about to share with you are tips and strategies that I used myself to sell 500 hard copies of my book. And before we get to that, though, like I said, I want to provide you with some context and specifically about the state of the publishing industry. A lot of people struggle with the concept of, should I self-publish or should I go to a publishing house? When you go to a publishing house, first of all, it can take years and years to get a publisher. And whereas self-publishing, put your money down and then you have your book published in a matter of months after you've written it, of course. But I wanted to just share with you some things because you probably already realized this, but the internet has changed publishing. And this is actually a quote that I'm going to share with you from Alana Wilcox. She is the CEO of Coach House Press. That's a publishing house in Canada. But what I'm about to share is pretty much similar across North America. So internet has changed because publishing has been changed because of the internet. And Alana Wilcox of Coach House Press said that it takes her 12 tweets to sell 3 copies. And now you may think, wow, that's awesome. Just put out 12 tweets and then you sell 3 books. But that doesn't count the thought about what those tweets are going to say, and maybe you have an image with them as well. And so there is work around that. And so it isn't just a matter of pressing a button and 3 seconds later, you've got 3 sales. And Alana says this, she says, it's a really different world than it was 10 years ago. And I don't really know how to adjust to it, the publisher says. It used to be a problem that we had no direct access to readers. At the same time, talking to your readers now on the internet is exhausting. And if it takes 12 tweets to sell 3 copies, that's a lot of labor. And when you understand the publishing industry, this sort of, because many small publishers want you to have a following before they even agree to give you a book deal. And they often have grants from the government here in Canada, which means that they're supposed to publish a certain number of books per year. So let's say they have a mandate to publish 12 books per year. That means that they have roughly 1 month to promote your book. And however that book does, whether it sells a lot, whether it sells 2 copies, whatever, they are moving on to the next person in line for the next month. So that's why even if you get a publishing house deal, then you are still expected to do your own marketing. And ideally, they are actually asking you, what's your fan base? How many people follow you? How many are on your list, right? So more and more who they take on in publishing houses, a function of your social media. And so beyond that month that they have available to promote you, then if you want to make any more sales, then you have to be continuing that heavy lifting of spreading the word about your book and cultivating your fan base. And so then you might say, oh yeah, but we can get a publishing deal and then we get advances. That's very rare now that we actually get some kind of advances that are significant. But the reality, even if you get an advance, you only start making royalties on your books after the publishing house has paid back all its costs. So all of its costs for printing and editing and cover art and putting out all those tweets and all of those things, plus your advance. Once all of that is taken care of, then you might be making some money on each book that's sold. And sometimes you make $1 per copy, sometimes you make two, depends on the contract that you're given. So here's an example. Let's say that this writer writes my big literary novel, and big publishing house press pays her $50,000 as an advance. Now, like I said, this is highly unusual and it's not very common to actually receive that amount of money in it. Let's go with that. So the cover price of the book is $20 and her royalty rate is 10%. So if the publisher sells 10,000 copies of the book, the total sales are $200,000 and the author has earned $20,000 from royalties, right? Except that she was already paid $50,000. So she is actually at negative $30,000. She doesn't have to pay that back though, but the publisher takes a loss. And so that's one of the primary reasons that publishers take the bulk of the profit and give $1 or $2 per book or 10% or 5% or whatever, because they're taking all the risk, right? And so I'm going to show you here. So $50,000 advance and then $20 cover price, 10% royalty, 200K total sales. And that means 20K of royalties, but you've got 50,000. So it's actually minus 30K from the advance. And like I said, the publisher eats that and they just hope that the next author that they are taking on will recoup those losses. And so that's another reason why publishing houses, if your book is a bust, they don't spend time trying to revive it and resuscitate it. They move on to the next thing that they hope and pray will be a better earner. And some things to be aware of depending on how you want to go. Do you want to wait forever for a publishing house to pick you up? And if you don't have a following already, if you're not cultivating that audience in social media, you probably will never get that publishing house deal. Oftentimes, the route that many first-time authors choose is to self-publish themselves, because now you are taking all the risk, but you have a much bigger chance of actually reaping some rewards if you know how to market and sell, which I'll get to that in a bit. I'm going to share my particular story. Okay, so I decided to publish a book many years ago, and even before I was really aware of all of the machinations of the internet, I decided to self-publish because it was about potatoes and I wanted it to come out during the International Year of the Potato. And there was only, I think, 7 months left to that year. And I thought, instead of wasting some time trying to find a publisher, I'm just going to hire an editor and a proofreader and put it together and get it out there during International Year of the Potato. So what I did was I had 500 copies, and I think that they were about $5 each to print them from the publisher. So it's about $2,500. And I retailed them for $20 per book. And so that means like I'm making $10,000, right? Wow, bonus. So I'm making $7,500 profit. Not so fast because there were other expenses. The other expenses that I had were my promotional expenses. I had a launch party and I paid for all the food and the musicians. And so there were a lot of different things that I had to pay for that ate into my profit. And the same thing for going to events and the travel expenses, and sometimes had to stay overnight. So there were a lot of things that chipped away at my profits. But I actually did make all of that back. I sold all of my copies, and I think it was actually less than 4 months. It was very, very quick that I was able to do that. So I'm going to share with you some of my strategies. Okay. So pre-sales. One of the strategies that I did was I pre-sold copies, and I approached friends and family that I knew were rooting for me, and I said, look, I'm taking pre-orders, and everybody who supports me will, at a certain level, will get a copy of the book plus something else. And so you can actually, even though the cost of the book is going to be $20, let's say, you can charge more for your pre-sale because you're giving them something else of value. So for instance, you could be giving them like a group coaching or a book club day or something like that, that when they support you for $40, you get the book, plus you get this extra workshop or extra time with me, or one-on-one if you wanted to go that way. Yeah, so that's one of the strategies that I did. And if you are just thinking about, as soon as you get your idea gelled, I would create a landing page for pre-sales and get people on board, because then you can actually say, my book is going to be published in September. It's only May right now, and I've already pre-sold 100 books. So this is a great way of social proof and encouraging other people to get on board, especially when you talk about the advantages of purchasing pre-sale. The other thing that I did in order to sell my books was going to events and festivals. So, and this is again the long game. So you do need to give yourself some time, especially if things are over in the next state or the next province, these events. And some of these events, they only happen once a year. So if you wanted to, let's say, get a table and speak at an event that was in October, they actually might have the deadline now for it. So again, this is something else to think about. And a lot of first-time authors think, okay, I can't do anything until I have the book published and it's in my hands. Then I'll take the next step. But that's wrong. That's bad. You really need to be thinking way in advance, even before you started writing the book. Like I said, as soon as you know what the book is going to be about, maybe you have a blurb about it, applying to speak at events and festivals and conferences that you think are a good fit for the audience for your book, that's when you need to be doing that. And you can, again, have a description of what your book is about and how you would fit in to the festival or the conference or the event, and get yourself booked in there. And this is another really great thing to do, because as soon as you have got yourself booked in 6 months, 8 months down the road to speak at different events, you got to get your book done, right? And so it lights a fire under you to make sure that you get it written and sent off to get printed and get those copies with you. The other thing that I did was local organizations. So I went to local organizations like Women's Art Society and other communities that I actually had worked in, and senior citizens groups as well. They always are interested in new books, and especially from a local author. And I went and I booked myself there, and I talked about my book, and then sometimes I did a workshop with them, gave them value, and then they buy a book and I get to sign it. So that was another thing. You might have other organizations like the Lions Club or business organizations or associations. And sometimes you can also check out meetups. Sometimes that could be a good source of approaching a local meetup host and say, hey, I'd love to give a workshop on my topic to your audience. And then you have an opportunity to sell your book. So those are just some ideas. I'm just gonna take a sip of water here. And the other thing, I'm in education myself and I teach at the university level, but I have friends who are teaching high school. And one of my friends, she teaches English literature, and she said, hey, why don't you come and do a workshop and a talk with my high school kids? I have 3 sections. And I think that ended up being about 120 students. And they bought my 120 books in bulk and for the students. So that was one avenue. And if you have any connections like that, or if your book is more of a interest of a corporate nature, you can approach corporations. Or if it's about wellness, if your niche is health and wellness, there are so many corporations that have these big budgets for employee well-being, and you can approach them and suggest that you give a workshop there. Bring your book then. And of course, while you're giving the workshop, you can say in something like, and we go deeper into this step in my book, right? And so you can pepper naturally in the talk your book. And also EAP, employee assistant programs. That's what we call them here in Canada. They might be called something different in your neck of the woods. But again, these are outside organizations that assist big companies with employee wellness, and you can approach them. This is something else that I've done as well. And approach them with your topic and that you'd love to give a lunchtime series talk, or go to libraries. Oftentimes libraries have lunchtime series. And again, though, they often book it by season. So the sooner that you have it in your mind about what the book is going to be about, the better you're going to position you're going to be in to get yourself booked into all of these events. So whether they're local events or they're a little farther, really be thinking long term to get yourself in there. Yeah. So with those 4 strategies, within, I think it was 3 or 4 months, really quickly, I got nice homes for all 500 of my books. But I was on a mission. I had read all of the negatives and the forums where people said, yeah, I got all these books and now what do I do? And they're cluttering up my basement, whatever. And so there's all these sad stories of people that couldn't sell their books. It's because they didn't sell the books. They just bought them and put them in their house, right? So you don't want to do that. You have to be proactive. You have to take action, and you have to have a strategy. So I've shared with you my 4 strategies that I use to sell the first 500 free copies that I got. But there are other strategies that you could employ, and I'm going to give you some of those as well. And some of these I would definitely be doing the next time around. And yeah, one of them is to have ads in the back of your book. Okay. This is a strategy where, let's say you were writing a book about leaving your affairs in order so that you make it easy for your family after you're gone to sort through your effects and leaving a legacy instead of a mess, basically, for your family. And so if you were writing that kind of a book, then you can approach people who, maybe there's a lawyer that does to do with wills. And so maybe you could get an ad from them, or grief counselor, right? You can get an ad from a grief counselor and put that in the back of the book. So these are like complementary to your topic. They're not competing with your topic in the book, but they are providing the readers with additional resources and follow-up. Another great idea is, let's say there is an expert in your niche that covers probably the same topic as you, but they're much more popular. They've got more of a following, and they've been doing this longer than you. So they actually would be a perfect person to approach to do a special chapter inside your book. So like in the middle of your book, the bonus chapter from this famous person in your niche. But you can charge for that, and you charge for the ads in the back. And I have seen people who have, and for those complimentary ads in the back pages, they sell them for anywhere from 300 to 1,000 per advertisement, and you could charge even more for the bonus chapter. Okay, if you, let's say, got 5 or 5 at 300, that's $1,500. Or if you got 5 at 1,000, that's $5,000. And that would pretty much cover your costs for publication and probably some of your expenses as well. So it's a really lucrative way of paying for your book. And then, yeah, creating some buzz around the book. This is another way to gather interest and grow your fan base. So if you create some buzz around the book about it coming out soon, for instance, you could document your journey. And so what this means is maybe once a week or every day, whatever frequency that you decide, but keep it consistent. If it's twice a week or once a week, always make sure that you do that. And you can offer people a behind the scenes look of what is the life of a writer like. And so behind the scenes, and you can give them a tour, talk about the specific pens that you use and what kind of journal paper that you use to do the first part, and then you move to the computer or whatever your method or your process is. People love to learn about that kind of stuff. So you could share that. You could also share about what the topic is, what's the section that you're working on this week, and share a little bit about what's going to be in that chapter, but then also ask them. The topic is about how to go through your loved one's things after they've passed. And what is it? What are your questions about that? What do you want to know about that topic? Because I want to make sure that I make this the best book on this topic for you. And people love to be included in the process as well. So those are some other ideas. And so for me, I would definitely be using that strategy next time around. And when you do that, you can also offer them to get onto your waiting list. And you could say pre-sales are going to be coming up soon. But first, I would actually just get them on the waiting list, and that you'll give them news of what's to come, and they'll be the first to know. And then maybe a month later, after a nurture email sequence, then you could say that the doors are open now for pre-sales. And yeah, growing your know trust factor, growing your fan base and your mailing list, so that when the book finally does come out, that either you've pre-sold them or people are ready to buy because they've been with you through this whole journey that you've been sharing with them. And what else? Oh, yes. So this is another technique that I would probably use next time as well. So I'm currently creating an event in August that I'll talk to you about just in a little bit. But so I'm using this app for a wait list, because initially I just wanted to see if there were interest in this event that I'm creating in August. I wanted to see if people were interested in it and whether it was worth going ahead. And what I found was that, yes, people were interested. I think within a week, I got, 24 people that said, yeah, they were interested and wanted to know more. And so then I modified that to the registration form. So it was the same page, but I just modified it a little bit. And now it was my registration form. And then I got to ask people, even at the waitlist stage, I got to ask people some specific questions that provided me with great insight in terms of my target audience. And so that's another advantage of the waitlist, is that you get data to help you know what's important to them, and also language that you can use in your ad copy that sounds like them, right? Because that's the other thing, that you want to use language that they would already be using themselves to describe their issue or their problem. And as I've been using that, I've been getting quite a few. Like now it's over 100. I can't remember, it's maybe close to 150 that I've had come through that waitlist process. That's now the registration process. And I was thinking to myself the other week, I wonder what other people who use this same app, whether these numbers are good. And just, it was so funny. I was thinking about that in the morning, and later that day I got an email from that waitlist company saying that basically you're doing amazing. And they said with an impressive 1,109 answers by a total of 146 unique respondents. Yeah. They said, your success is impressive and relatable, and we'd love to share your story to inspire more entrepreneurs. And so they gave me a link to do a video to explain how I'm using their app and why I'm getting such good results. Now, I am definitely going to do that, but if I were doing that wait list for a book that was coming up, doing that video and explaining how I did such good numbers, I would definitely be mentioning that I created this wait list for my upcoming book, blah, blah, blah. And so this is another forum for you to spread the word. Any opportunity that you have to spread the word, like getting on podcasts too, anything that shows numbers, that shows social proof, and it is something that you want to highlight and share because it helps you build authority and build your know, like, and trust factor. And so another thing that you can do is create a course as a bonus for pre-purchasing. So I'm actually part of a monthly book club, and we meet every Friday. And there's a facilitator who helps us go through the chapter that we're looking at, and there's breakout rooms and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, that's $97 a month, or 99, something like that. And so basically $25 a week to be part of that book club. And that's definitely something that you could do. You could create a book club around your book. So everybody who purchases in pre-sales will be invited to a 4-week or 6-week or 8-week book club. And you decide the length that you want. And so this is value added. And like I said earlier, this is one of the things that I did was to have pre-sales, but I actually didn't even think about having a book club at that point, but it's a great idea. And speaking about book clubs and selling in bulk to schools, if you have a teacher's guide or student activities guide, if you put those together and then you approach schools or even corporations, modify those additional materials to suit the audience, that could be another way to get the yes for bulk sales. Another thing that I have done in the past, and I probably would do for a book, is I went to, and about the book clubs as well, you could approach local libraries, either in person or online, and that when they purchase some copies of your book, they might just get 2 copies of your book or whatever at the library, or you can charge for it. They say that we're going to be doing I'll be doing a free workshop, let's say, and then you can, at the library, you do this free workshop, and then you invite them into the book club. And so this is for if you already have your books and you're looking for ways to find good homes for them. You could offer something at the local library, like I said, or a club or association that you feel would be interested in it. Give them a talk or a workshop, and then they can buy the book. And if you want, you can sweeten the deal with a book club. So this is another thing that I did. And this was a way to get people into my workshop. So here in Canada, we have this thing called Culture Days at the end of the month of September. And basically it's all artists of any kind and cultural organizations open their doors, and people can come in and hang out and ask you questions about your process, or you can give them a workshop or whatever it may be. And so I've always found that a really good way to get new clients. And so I've done that for many years. And one year I decided that I would give a poetry workshop in a clothing shop. So I have a friend who had a store who it was all populated with local designers, really beautiful high-end stuff. And so clothing and jewelry. And so during Culture Days, I organized a poetry workshop in her shop, and all of the activities, all the writing prompts that I gave the workshop participants were based on the environment, right? So I said, go look at this rack, and I gave them a particular prompt to write a poem about. And then they would come back, they would share that, and then I would send them off to another place of the store and give them a prompt. And it was a big hit. Now, if I actually had a book of poetry to sell, I guarantee you I would have sold some of those that day, because they just loved that. And also, because I didn't have books for them from me to sell, they were just so excited and happy in that workshop that they had to buy something. And so they bought from that lady's shop. And every single one of my workshop participants bought something in the shop that day and left as very happy customers. And next time around, though, I would definitely have my own book or something of mine, whether it's a book club or whether it's a workshop or a course or something. I would definitely have that as a call to action at the end of the workshop that I did. And I would also negotiate a revenue share with the store owner, because she shared with me that was one of the highest sales days that she had. And so it's definitely worth you as an artist bringing your audience into some place that they may have never been, but that is amazing. And so that's something to think about for yourself as well. And what else? Yes. Yeah, and so you can modify that idea depending on the topic of your book, right? You might pair up with, if you were writing a children's book, you could go to a children's clothing store. If you were writing a memoir, you might go to an art gallery or a museum that's having some kind of thematically related topic, right? So there's all sorts of ideas. Now, if you are in the position of having a book, and let's say you have copies and you don't know how to find good homes for them, or if you're thinking about writing a book or it's about to be published in the next couple of months, maybe it's going to be published, it's already in process, or it's just at the firm idea stage where you're going to do it and you have an outline, you have a description of it. If you are in any of those categories, then this event that I'm creating at the in August is something that would be of interest to you. So I have created SheLeads Vision Fest. It's a global celebration of women's empowerment. And you can come and speak for as little as $27, and you will be able to put into place any of these strategies that I've been mentioning to you today. So if you've already got your book, you can give a talk about your book, talk about the transformation that you underwent, grow your know and trust factor, and then offer them a freebie at the end, a free workshop after you've given your talk. And you can put the link underneath your talk and give them opportunity to join you for your free workshop. And then in your free workshop, you can give them the offer of buying your book, whether it's in pre-sale or whether you've already got it. Maybe you're going to be offering a book club, something else, right? So it's a perfect opportunity to start thinking strategically, right? Because here we are in May, so June, July, August, 3 months away. And it's definitely not too early to start promoting your book and saying, hey, I'm going to be speaking at the SheLeads Festival. I'm going to be giving you a workshop on X, and you need to come. So if you are interested in the possibilities for you to empower yourself to publish your book, sell your book, and spread your word to have more income and impact, then post below here, and then I will set you up with information, and it would be great to have you. So if you're a woman who has gone through some sort of transformation, you have a story of transformation to share, and you've got a book about it, like, this is amazing, right? But you got to get it in front of people. And they say that we don't actually hear that there's something there trying to get our attention until about 12 times that we see it. So that means, like back in the old days, it was 7 times that when we had television, and the advertisers determined that they wouldn't see any return on investment for their commercials that they put on until at least 7 times that it aired. And so now our attention is even shorter than it used to be. And there's so much information that's being bombarded on the internet that we actually have to show up much more often. So at least 12 times. And that means that you have to be out there on a regular basis saying, like, this is my book, it's in pre-sale, or this is my book, it's coming up, get on the wait list. Here's my book, it's being published in August, and I'm going to be speaking at the SheLeads Festival. Thinking about, like, how are you going to build that momentum so that you find homes for your books? Because the books that you write are not going to change anybody's life unless you actually get that into their hands. And this is why you need to be strategic and you need to have that long game in mind. And I highly encourage you, whether you've got copies of an old book or you're just about putting a wait list together, whatever stage that you're at with your book, that you need to come to SheLeads and tell the story of your transformation, grow your know, like, and trust factor, and get people on your list that are going to be great fit for you to purchase your book when it's ready, or join your book club, or join your mini course, or whatever it is. All right. So that's it for today. I hope that you found these tips and strategies helpful. Leave a comment below. Let me know what your top takeaway was. I'd love to hear that. Okay, everybody. Have a great day.